Absolutely beautiful, Laurel. Christoph, thank you. What a gift. This message this morning begins with a single word: wilderness. By wilderness, I mean more than seemingly empty desert expanses with no water in sight, and more than seemingly endless watery waves with no land in sight. Because whether we physically journeyed to such places or not, each of us has known wilderness. Because by wilderness, I mean a condition, a reality in which our search for the usual things we count on to save our lives comes up empty. Wilderness may be a hospital waiting room, a room at home awaiting delayed test results, the acute absence of a loved one whose wisdom or touch we desperately need. Wilderness may be the parched expanse between jobs or careers, the space between "I can't do this anymore" and "oh my God, what is next?" Or the dry desert in our own chests, when after searching for answers we hear only dreadful silence and the faint echo of our anxious heart. A necessary but painful decision made, a betrayal endured, benefits cut, renegotiating life without the familiar tools. Many of us feel a worldwide wilderness in this time of climate crisis and social upheaval, though with wildly different supply kits depending on where we were born. Whatever the wilderness, though, the questions are always the same. Who are we, and who are we to become in this crucible? Although we spend a lot of time and money avoiding it, wilderness, with all of its discomfort and fear, can be a hopeful place. Yes, a fiercely real place we can't escape soon enough, but a spirit-filled place as well. A place of learning who we truly are and what we are about, and a place of freeing ourselves from anything that would tempt us otherwise. Enter Jesus' experience in the wilderness. Robe still wet from his baptism in the Jordan River, Jesus is led by the Spirit there. I don't believe this suggests that God causes our pain or leads us to suffer, but rather that we are met within it and accompanied through it. Nor is suffering itself redemptive. But what is redemptive is the curious way the Holy takes the dusty, dried-up wardrobes of our own struggles and wrings from them some new waters of life. We are led through the wilderness, in other words, to be led out again. Before Jesus' exit, he'll endure 40 days and nights without food, power, or special protection. Only a Bible-thumping figure and a lot of sand. You know, it's a shame that the Inclusive Bible, the version we read this morning, capitalizes the word devil, translating the ancient Greek word diabolos, which means slanderer or accuser, and then makes it into a proper name. I don't believe there is a literal figure called the devil, but I have known intrusive voices that slander and test and cast doubt on the convictions of my inner voice. At his most vulnerable and most human, this is the voice that confronts Jesus as well. Jesus, you're famished. If you are who you say you are, turn this stone into bread. You haven't done any miracles yet. Here's a practice run. You know all those hungry people you're going to meet will be so grateful. Jesus, all the empires of the world, they're yours. Why not gain influence over the politics of the day? What was your parents' tax bracket last year? Imagine it, all of you, free from Roman occupation. Throw yourself off the temple, Jesus. Scripture says God will protect you. What's so bad about a little spectacle? Imagine the faith it would inspire in many. Cunningly, at Jesus' weakest, it is not Jesus' weakness, but his strength to which the voice appeals. Jesus wrestles with how he will use his power and influence. We may conclude he is a kind of hero, stoically resisting lures to comfort, and by resisting, demonstrating this great fortitude. But I sense in him an even deeper demonstration, an open-hearted, humble trust in God that refuses miraculous exceptions to the limitations of authentic human life. We wish Jesus to be the former, and yet what we find so often following in his sandy, sun-baked footsteps is how to be fully human, too. Honestly embracing our vulnerability, finding ourselves held at our weakest, our inner convictions confirmed, strong in who and whose we are. Like how the late, great Reverend Jesse Jackson once inspired a generation across dividing lines with 3 simple words: I am somebody. A reclamation of humanity after years of dehumanization, of being told that because of their skin color or place in life, they didn't matter. In an era so many are falling again for the intoxicating lies of white supremacy, we must all whisper and sing and shout, I am somebody. You are somebody. They are somebody. You know, Jesus' temptations reveal that sometimes the greatest dangers are not obviously evil or wrong, but often come disguised as reasonable shortcuts toward the greater good. If you are who you say you are, feed people faster. Fix the system by seizing control of it. Prove once and for all that God is on your side. Each temptation appeals to a sense of self and to the good that Jesus would do: compassion, justice, faith. And yet each asks Jesus to achieve those things by abandoning trust in God and embracing the false promises of domination, spectacle, and control. It may be why white Christian nationalism has proven such an alluring temptation to so many followers of Jesus. As William Youngblood said, Christian nationalism is looking at Jesus' 3 temptations and thinking he made the wrong choices. It's believing the delusion that our power and privilege is divinely bestowed and therefore justifies the harm done in its name. It's the laughable claim that our waging wars will hasten Jesus' return. It's the dangerous, tired myth that the misery of our relentless bombing campaigns across this world and the brutal conditions of our for-profit prisons and pop-up warehouses are somehow redemptive. It's the always perilous confusing of our own will with God's. Jesus' wilderness experience challenges all of this. God's realm is not built with the tools of empire, for love coerced is no longer love. Faith manufactured by spectacle or demanded as unquestioning obedience is no longer faith. Jesus' refusal to magically become more than human by feeding himself while others go hungry keeps him true to the heart of his path. And that is a path to be in radical solidarity with the suffering, to meet people where they are and to help them journey through it and find new life on the other side of their loss, pain, or misfortune. And in our wilderness, we'll discover, as Jesus did, the voice of love always crying out, the only thing more powerful than hate is love. The only thing more powerful than hate, than domination, than spectacle and control is love. Today marks 115 years of advocacy by the International Women's Movement. in a world where women still only have roughly 64% of the rights that men are granted worldwide. Its work feels more vital than ever. Rights, justice, action for all women and girls. That is the UN's 2026 theme. For when we are honest about the issue, which California's own beloved Dolores Huerta diagnosed as, his story is told, hers isn't. We can then insist with the poet Nikita Gill on the realization of a matriarchy, which to her means the protection of nature, the destruction of fascism, the permanent dismantling of patriarchy, and the abolishment of all systems that oppress women. As democracy crumbles, we must insist what love can build up again. Love is taking care that our voices do not become external shouts, imposing their will on the inner convictions of others, or creating wilderness-like conditions in which people must suffer. I am thinking this morning of the state of Kansas, forcing trans people to surrender their driver's license. I'm thinking today of the violent erasure of Palestinians in Gaza and across the West Bank. I am thinking today of all those who are losing their lives because of hatred and the violence that naturally follows hatred. The love of Jesus is stubbornly nonviolent. It is love that resists hatred, love that resists making hell on earth even as it challenges hellish conditions. And this is where Jesus' wilderness path intersects with our own journeys, which always begin in heart and home. Wilderness is the terrain of the soul whenever our usual comforts, that which we count on to save our lives, fail us. Whenever we can't solve our way out, buy our way out, distract our way out. And this is what this season of Lent we are in is all about. Perhaps wilderness is precisely what we need to embrace, yet willingly going there or being led there, or maybe most often finding ourselves there, means admitting what keeps us from entering or embracing wilderness in the first place. I must admit, my phone gets more FaceTime than just about anything or anyone in my life. That's a hard thing to say. Red lights used to offer a minute to think. Now they are for opening my phone. I can't roll over to turn off the alarm without quickly checking email or Instagram. The addiction keeps me from facing or even realizing what may be stirring inside my mind and heart and body, begging for some attention, because my attention is constantly being drawn somewhere else. Blue light, hearts, likes, endless entertainment, an algorithmic accuracy that reinforces my every belief and prejudice, keeping me angry and resentful at all the right people who are all so very wrong. Knowing we're all being exploited to distrust each other as our realities are crafted and honed through these platforms is disturbing. The exhausting frenzy preserves the status quo with all its injustices and divisions. I'm guessing I'm not alone in this struggle. But ours may be more immediate today. Streaming, gaming, Amazon, excessive whatever. Anything that becomes a distraction when we are too tired, sad, or afraid to embrace the present moment, too overwhelmed to listen for a still small voice, too reluctant to face something we have repressed for so long that we pretend or even believe is not there. I'm so grateful that Lent is a 40-ish day season and not just a Sunday. Because when we first take off the headphones, the silence can be deafening. When we set the phone down 2 hours before bed, an uneasy vacuum appears. When we put boundaries around our work, the distance between work is done and rest feels natural can feel like crossing the Mojave Desert. Oscar Wilde once famously quipped, "I can resist anything but temptation." We feel that, don't we? Hashtag the struggle is real. I'm so sorry for that. I am an elder millennial. But Lent holds a gentle yet persistent invitation. Get a taste for what life is like without the usual painkillers. We know which devils have our numbers. Maybe we don't answer next time. And if we practice this enough and stay with it long enough, this experience of wilderness can do something strange and unexpected. Take Jesus and that long, famishing stretch he endured. Biblical scholar Barbara Brown Taylor says that it freed him from all attempts to distract him from his true purpose and identity, from hungry cravings for things with no power to give him real life, from any illusion he might have had that God was going to magically make his choices for him. Jesus not only learned to manage his appetites, he had also learned to trust the Spirit that had led him there was the same Spirit that would lead him out again, with the kind of clarity and grit he could not have found anywhere else. Might our own time in the wilderness hold the same? We may emerge feeling more alive than we have in years, or less bitter, more open to others and their experiences and different ideas and ways of being, and more time with those who matter most. We may face difficult things and discover a peace that could not have come any other way. We may find our capacity for love growing with newly watered roots, taking the place of indifference, fatigue, and despair. Or maybe we discover the truth again that we are not alone. We uncover an open-handed, open-hearted trust that the Spirit who led us there and met us there will lead us out again, will make us ready to serve God and God alone, which is to say, to serve the way of love. Yes, we all must face things on our own, but we are never far from this community of companions. Blessed journey, my friends.